All right. Our speaker today has spoken on hundreds of campuses around North America, helping students and staff increase their effectiveness and enjoyment of work, school, and life. Paul Wesselman holds degrees in psychology and higher education and is known as the Ripples Guy to thousands of people who enjoy his inspirational emails, texts, and tweets. Please help me give a warm welcome to NWTC to Paul Wesselman.
Thank you. Fireworks or farts? I always want to start off with a bang, but I never know what to do. I was on top of a mountain this summer, and that speech opening came to me, and you're the first group for me to try it. And based on that, you were like, yeah, maybe not. Oh, good. Oh, okay, it was okay. Okay, good. Shut up. How are you? So I know I hang out with a lot of new students, and I understand you're kind of a special kind of new student because you're not really a new student, right? How many of you have already taken at least a semester? How many of you are like pros 2, 3, 4 semesters, right? So I shouldn't do the, well, hello, boys and girls. Today, we're going to talk about college. I won't. I do have some things I want to share with you that you might have heard before and that you might have thought of before. But one of the things that happens every fall before I start hanging out with new students to help them with information and ideas to get the most out of their experience is I sit down with my notes from the previous year, and I've been doing this for a few years, and I sit down with the notes and I look over the notes to make sure the information is useful, to make sure it's current, and to make sure it's fun. And every year I ask my 5,000 Facebook friends for help. I ask them, what advice do you wish you would have received when you started college? Or what advice did you get that you wished you would have actually followed? And every year they answer and they answer, and in fact, this is what it looks like. Here we go. I had the screen. I was like, they don't need to see it, but yeah, they do. So here's my 5,000 friends. I put, so what advice can you unleash to help new students thrive in college? And they gave me all kinds of amazing little tidbits. And what I thought we would do today is go over each one individually and review it, and then, no. Instead, what I'm going to do is give you the overview, the highlights, the 6 actions that I think are useful. Originally, I had planned to sort of scrap that concept for you because I know you've been there and you've done that, but let me tell you something. When I give this talk, a lot of times there are upper class students in the room, resident assistants at colleges that have residence halls, orientation leaders, student mentors, and a lot of them come up to me afterwards, and if they hadn't seen me speak as a first-year student, they often say, oh, this would have helped me so much, and this is going to help me. So some of this information might seem a little repetitive. I promise you it's worth it. But the most important thing I need to share with you is a theory that I learned about learning in grad school. And it changed the way I think about myself as a student and certainly about how we help students learn. But I have a question for you. When you came and took maybe your first class or any other semester since, when you came to class the first time, I want you to pick some class that you remember just walking in the very first day of class and having a seat. How many of you, the next time you went to that class, went back and sat in the same seat? Okay. Or, God forbid, you came into the classroom and somebody was in your seat. And if you're really bold, you're like, excuse me, good morning. Why do we do that? Why do we walk in and we say, this is our spot, and then for the rest of the term, that is our spot? Because it's comfortable. And my first tip for you is when you want to feel comfortable in this world, in class, in college, in a job, in life, it is important that you seek out and find your comfort, and that you surround yourself with people you know, with people who have things in common with you, with people who look at the world the way you look at the world, when you want to feel comfortable. When you want to learn, when you want to grow, when you want to get something out of a class or college or job or life, it is essential that you step out of your comfort zone, find the new, the unfamiliar, the scary, and make sure that you are including those possibilities in your life. And by definition, that is uncomfortable. My mic sounded a little bit loud. Is that better? I'm hearing a little ringing. Well, we'll work on it. So here is the truth. So I loved being a college student so much. When I went to college, I was really involved in my campus. I was a resident assistant, so I was there hanging out with students, helping, being there for them. I was involved in student government, and I was the chair of the programming board, and I was the school mascot. I was everything, because it was a small college. And my junior year of college, my dean of students pulled me aside and said, "Paul, there is a master's degree you can get where you can be in student government for your whole life." And I was like, "Shut up, I'm in." So I trotted off from my little college in Southern Illinois where I grew up. And it was so great to move to Wisconsin and find out that you have names for us. Yeah. So I trotted off to Bowling Green, Ohio, and earned a master's degree in higher education and college student personnel. And for 2 years, the purpose of this program was to help understand how to create learning environments for college students. 2 years of taking a ton of classes, 2 years of taking a ton of notes, and I don't remember most of it. Can you relate? But there was one theory about student learning that I used every day, and that I use every day to this day, and I need you to know it. And this guy, Nevitt Sanford, said that real learning can only take place when we have the right balance between feeling comfortable and feeling challenged. He said, if students don't feel safe, they can't grow, they can't learn. So our first job on a college campus is to make sure they feel comfortable. So we try to provide lots of information to help you know what's going on. We create learning environments that are comfortable, like this room. And if all we do is get you comfortable, you get bored. Now, I don't know if I ask you to think about a recent time where you were sitting in a classroom setting and you were a little bit bored. Think back. A lot of times when you are in a classroom setting where you're bored, you don't do your best work, do you? How many of you can remember a time when you were sitting through a course and you're like, duh, I know this is not challenging to me? Raise your hand. How many of you, honestly, will raise your hand again if you got a lower grade than an A? Yeah. So here's the problem, is even if it's easy, even if you know you can do it, if you're not sufficiently challenged, you don't always do your best work. And what we know is if you're sitting in your butt and the professor, the instructor isn't challenging you, the program is not challenging you, or your job or life isn't sufficiently challenging, usually we don't do this. Oh no, I am not sufficiently challenged. No, we Facebook, or we text, or we sleep. We don't perform at our best. So part of what every instructor hopefully gets taught, every person that works on this campus gets taught, is we've got to help each student find the right balance for them between feeling comfortable and feeling challenged. That's tricky, because if you can imagine in a room this size with this many people, every single person is at a slightly different place in terms of where they're at in life and with the content being shared. So this morning when we were going over some content about Blackboard, some of you are like, I know. And some of you are like, I'm behind, I don't understand. And as a result, we've got to find the happy medium. And if instead of putting the person up here in charge of your education, you put the person sitting in your seat in charge of your education, if you're bored, the question is, what do I do to make this more challenging? One of the best things I have found as an educator, as somebody who makes his living getting up in front of other people, when I'm in a situation where I'm bored and somebody's talking, I can instantly make that valuable by saying to myself, what is that person doing or not doing that's keeping me from being engaged? How would I do it differently? If you were to ask yourself, what could I do differently up here to make this funnier, to make it better, to make it more engaging? What would I need? That is stimulating, still on topic, still taking this information and putting yourself in charge of finding the challenge. So what I'm going to invite you to do lots of times this semester is to ask yourself, in a class where you're bored, what can I do to challenge myself? Do I need to say to myself, I need to assign myself some extra reading? Do I need to find a way to ramp it up a little bit to make it more interesting, more challenging, more fun? Or if I'm overwhelmed, do I need to find some comfort? Do I need to cut myself some slack? Do I need to adjust my expectations? Do I need to ask for help? First piece of advice that lots of college students tell me to tell you is a lot of new students are afraid to ask questions. They're afraid they're already supposed to know the answer. They're afraid they're going to ask the wrong person. They're afraid of looking like a stupid new student. And the truth is, most people, when they just get started, are just afraid. And what I would challenge you, as somebody who's been here a while and probably good at getting the basic information, in addition to being able to ask questions when you need it, being able to ask for help, especially if you're pursuing a career as a helper, because I did some research in grad school on professional helpers, and I discovered something that I bet a lot of you know about yourself. We helpers are awesome at helping other people. Can I help you? Here, can I help you? In our genes is serving others. How many of you since like 5th grade, you've had like a sign on your back that says, come talk to me about your problems? Right. And we helpers who are awesome at helping other people are frequently awful at taking care of ourselves. We put other people's needs ahead of our own with such frequency, with such intensity, with such passion, that what starts out at the beginning of our career is, can I help you? Can I help you? What can I do to make your day a little better? Evolves over weeks and months and years of putting other people's needs ahead of our own into something like, what do you want? I'm trying to help you here. I'm giving you the best I've got. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm becoming my mother. A lot of times when I hang out at orientation programs, I'm just brought in for the hour and then they kick me to the curb because it's the next thing. I'm very delighted that here they have me stick around for the day so that I can do a breakout session for you on time and stress management. So we're going to dive into that more if you are coming to my presentation either right after this or the one after that. The second piece of advice that I bet you figured out quickly is connecting with people is the key to success in college. As soon as possible and as often as possible, connecting with people. Here's the challenge, is that since you've got here, you've been pleasantly surprised at how many new connections you've made. Oh my gosh, some of you are awful. You are cold, evil people who sit alone and never meet anyone. Our tendency, when we come to college, in our quest for comfort, is to seek out the people who are like us, who come from the same backgrounds, who have the same small town, big town, same ethnicity, same religious preference, all kinds of things. We tend to find our own because it helps us feel comfortable. Remember that part of the program, part of your educational mission here, is to leave here a different person than when you got here. And even though of all the schools I talk to, I am impressed with the cost of attending school here and the cost of getting a degree. Yeah, it could be cheaper, I know. But let me tell you, a lot of places I go, the tuition, the room and board, it's insane. And even though this I would call a relative bargain, it's still expensive. And if you were to leave here at the end of your program thinking the same way that you do now, acting the same way you do now, it will have been a waste of your money. Yes, you might have the little piece of paper that you need to go get the job. That's not enough. We need more from you. One of the reasons the citizens of Wisconsin pitch in is because there is this expectation, if you go here, that you are going to contribute, that you are going to help, that you are going to come out of here better, stronger, more creative. And that means connecting with people who are different than you. I'm going to ask you really quickly, since it doesn't sound like you've done this, some of you, I'm going to give you 90 seconds right now to stand and meet 3 people you haven't yet met. And then when you sit back down, I'm hoping you'll remember their names. Go!
Of the chatter.
Okay, grab a seat. Even? Awesome, thank you. Oh, that's what I love about groups like this. So often, they're like not gonna do it on their own, but with the littlest little nudge, you're like, I'm in, right? Let's go. And I dare you to add more of that to your college experience. Something that's cool about going to a technical college that I see in this room, that I find from my previous visits here, is there a lot more diversity of age. That there is a lot more of traditional, just out of high school or just a couple years out of high school, and then there's folks who have been out of school for a while and are coming back to create a new chapter in their life. And what I will notice when I go to eating areas, study areas, common areas on campuses, a lot of time they've got their little clump, and there is not more than like a 5-year age difference in the clump. And I will tell you, to the young whippersnappers in this room, that the folks who have been around a little bit have something to offer you. And don't be afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone and making those connections. Because there is, even though our society doesn't always value it just right, there's some wisdom and experience and some, this is how to make it in this crazy world, that you can benefit from. And to my peers, the folks my age and maybe a little older too, these little young whippersnappers need to put a belt on and put their pants up sometimes. And I don't know about some of this crazy music they listen to, But while you're busy being really nervous about heading back to school and am I going to be able to handle it, and oh my gosh, this is a lot with my crazy full life, those little young whippersnappers have got some energy and enthusiasm and curiosity and passion that if you can, I know they're sitting over there by themselves and it can be intimidating, but head over there and say hi to them. Because a lot of times what I find in all the speaking I do on campus, or well, on campuses too, but in association conferences, I'll go hang out with a group of architects. This couple months ago, I was hanging out in Madison with a group of pharmacists from around the state, and all kinds of groups. Whatever the group is, when I come up to people who are first-year attendees at the conference, I say, hey, how's it going so far? And inevitably, it's some version of, it's good, I'm finding this group is a little cliquey. And I will tell you, it's not because pharmacists are cliquey, or nurses are cliquey, or teachers are cliquey. It's because when you come into a room with 200 people, you see comfort. You see the person that you haven't seen since last year's conference, and you run over, and if you're like me, you're loud about it. My people are loud. Did I just? Yeah, I did. Okay, anyway. Shut up, you knew already. Oh, thank you. Oh my God. You're clapping for it. That didn't happen in high school. But it turns out when you're the new person in the room and you sit back and you hold back a little bit, it's not always that the veterans are going to run over and welcome you because they're busy saying hi to each other. But if you can have the bravery to head over and just say, hey, you will often find they're open and welcoming. So lots of times you walk into a cafeteria, common area, library, wherever, class, and there's 3 or 4 people sitting by themselves, and you want to not go up there because they're kind of cliquey. I dare you to go over and say hi and see, it's like, is it okay if I sit with you, and see how quickly they open up. And 1 time out of 10, they're going to be like, okay. And you can like curse inside your head and be like, sorry, never mind. A couple more points I want to share with you before we head to our breakout session, sampling the buffet. If you don't love food buffets, you're just wrong. How many of you love the buffet? We got your Old Country buffet, we got your Golden Corral, we got your Chinese buffets. And if I gave you the choice today, I'm going to treat you to lunch. Do you want to go to a buffet that has 50 fresh items or 100 fresh items? Who's in for 50? Who would rather have 100? I found out there's a third choice. There's 150 fresh food options. How many would choose the 150 instead of the 100? Because we love all these choices. Do you know that the average American consumer, when they go to a buffet, eats the same 6 or 7 items every friggin' time? Why? Because it's comfortable. Given the choice of how many options we want more, because we're Americans. We want to be able to choose from lots. But what do we go for? The same stuff. You've picked your program. You're heading down a path. There are still quite a few options, organizations that you might not yet have dived into to get to know here. There are opportunities that you will see on the full bulletin boards, and you'll be like, oh, I don't have time. Try sampling a little bit of those ideas. Again, so that you can leave here a different person than when you arrived. The next piece, oh, no, we're skipping the screen. No, ignore all that advice. That's a whole bunch of advice. I was going to read each one slowly and mindfully. No. I'll read this since it's up there. Be curious, discover, question, and enjoy. Most of all, don't be afraid to discover the real you that may be different from who you thought you were. The freedom of college may reveal interests in different subjects or things than you believe you enjoy. We're going to do an activity right now that's going to completely freak you out. And while we set that up, I'm going to ask my helpers in the shirts of blue to hand you each a card. You're just about to get a white piece of paper. I'm going to ask you to just take the piece of paper, pass the pack on. Do not peek at it. Everyone raise your right hand. Repeat after me real quick. I promise I will not peek. If you believe in God, I want you to believe for the next few moments that you're about to get a message from a higher power. If you don't believe in God, that's okay. This is a message from the universe. And if you don't believe in the universe, this is a message from Miss Cleo, your psychic friend. And if you don't know who Miss Cleo, your psychic friend is, you're a young whippersnapper. I've been doing this activity for 15 years, and it created something called ripples. Some people came up to me after a presentation and said, this is really fun and this is really awesome, but I know I'm going to forget it. Can you come back and fire us up every Monday morning? And I said, what if we could? So I agreed every Monday morning to send an inspirational quote, like the one that you're about to get, and something to think about for the week. And I told them, I'll send it to you for free, because college students love the free stuff. No marketing, and how to unsubscribe at the bottom of each one. It'll come on Mondays, because Mondays are crazy, and it'll take 60 seconds or less to read, because Mondays are crazy. And we went from 75 people trying that out to 30,000 students around the world who get ripples every Monday. So you're about to get a ripples card. And I'm going to ask you to believe that either you were supposed to get this card, it has meaning, there's a reason for it to come, or if you don't really buy that everything happens for a reason, find what meaning it could have that would be of use to you. And our last quick activity before we do our breakouts is for you to share with someone near you what your quote is. And there's a catch. The card you have right now is not for you. Because the most important reason I'm here today is to remind you that every single person you encounter on this campus and in this lifetime has something to offer you and has something they need from you. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do very quickly is switch cards at least twice, with someone next to you, with someone behind you, with someone in front of you. Switch at least twice. You might need to do it more than twice so that everyone around has. Okay, awesome. Now you have your message. Take a peek at your quote, and with a couple people around you, can you quickly share with them what your quote is and maybe why you think it was useful to you to have? Go. How many people got a quote that was definitely relevant to your life? I forgot to mention to you that for some people, these quotes arrive early. And right now, you're like, I don't know. Hold on to it. It's yours to keep. Sometimes people tell me they tuck them away in their pocket or their wallet or their purse, and in a couple weeks, they pull it out and go, whoa. Did I just do Joey from Blossom? Like, I've never done that before. I was like, wait a second, that's crazy. My people. Okay, I'm pretty sure if they had Ritalin when I was a kid, yeah, I'm pretty sure there'd be like an IV drip at all times, but. So I mentioned ripples, this email, and I want to share with you the Monday, not yesterday, but a week ago, that the ripples was called The Heaviness of Things. And I want to share with you the quotes. And the first one said, if you weren't so afraid of letting go, you wouldn't feel so free when you do it. The next quote said, you will find that it is necessary to let things go, simply for the reason that they are heavy. So let them go. Let go of them. And then the part that I write is called the ponder, and this is 2 paragraphs, and it says, has something been weighing you down lately? Perhaps it was a missed opportunity, or someone you were counting on has let you down, or maybe an inconvenient and frustrating turn of events has left you anxious or depressed. Regardless of the size of the thing that you're dealing with right now, it might be useful to acknowledge its impact on you, grieve the loss of how you thought it would turn out, and then you can finally lighten your load. Take a few breaths and say goodbye. Let it go. If you are interested in getting those weekly splashes, all you have to do is send a blank email to this email address, which is located at the bottom of your little white card, 6@2rplripple.me. And what'll happen is that'll automatically get you added. I will sell your email to 3 people. It goes into a very secure database, and you will get a Monday morning splash of ripples until you click unsubscribe and say, this isn't for me, your life is too full. Last 2 points before we head out. The first one is focusing. Sometimes in class you will be bored. Make it easier for you to focus. The best piece of advice of all the hundreds of pieces of advice that have been shared with me on Facebook was something so obvious, and I'd never thought of it. And it was the idea, instead of turning your phone on vibrate, to turn it off in class. Now, I will admit, when I go out to eat with somebody, I don't want my phone on and ringing. So I put it on vibrate and I put it in my pocket. And all is good until zzz. And then a piece of my attention goes right here. I wonder who that is. And then I might be like, I'm just going to check real quick. And then I look, hey, I'm just going to text this person real quick. And then suddenly I'm having dinner here instead of here. How many of you are guilty of doing that? I will tell you, I know some of you got kids. I know you got crazy at home. I know there's possibility that something could come in and it could be an emergency. The problem is, sometimes Facebook becomes the emergency. Sometimes a text that really isn't urgent becomes an emergency. Try, if you've never done this before, try when you come into class, turn it all the way off. Instructors could be more engaging sometimes. Please remember, it's not their job to entertain you. It is their job to offer you information, and it is your job to grab it. Even if it's boring, even if it's stuff you already know, find a way to stay focused. The last piece is enjoying today. Are we good? Yeah. The last piece is enjoying today. This will go fast. High school, if you're new, if you're just out of high school recently, if high school went fast, this goes even faster. If you've been around the block a few times, you already know life keeps getting faster. You're going to blink and this is going to be over. It's going to be crazy, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be fast. And do what you can to find the moments of joy in it. It is time for us to take a stretch break. Some of us will be heading over out of this room. For those of you hanging out with me, will be here. But I need to do one more thing, because I found out that virtually everyone in this room is pursuing careers in health care. Is that true? I need to, before we leave, to say thank you for something. When I was a little kid in the hospital, my tonsils, and then a few years later when I had to have a small surgery on my foot to get a needle out that I'd stepped on in my carpet, I spent the night and it was scary. I was all by myself that second time. And I was so afraid, and one of you heard me crying, and when you came in I pretended I wasn't crying, and you were there, and I remember that. And a few years later, when I was in the doctor's office, one of you noticed that I wasn't feeling good, and you had a conversation that made me feel that I mattered. And a few years later, when I was in college, still trying to figure out how to be different in a world that does not value difference, and I tried to leave the planet. And I remember being very ashamed of being in the hospital for that reason, because here you were trying to keep me alive, and here I was trying to die. And you treated me with such passion and such compassion. And a few years ago, when I went, my back was not treating me right because I'm getting older. And a physical therapist taught me, number one, help tweak some things to make it better, but then gave me some exercises so it doesn't have to hurt all the time. And I get to experience lots more moments of pain-free than I thought I was going to have to. And just a couple years ago, when I was in the hospital and I broke my thumb in a bike fall, and it turned out I needed a pin in it, so I had to do this surgery. And right as I was going in, you were just getting ready to get off duty, and I was your last thing of the day, and you looked at me and you were tired. You said, Paul, I'm going to leave you here, and this guy's going to take over. And I looked over and I realized that the anesthetist, the surgeon, the nurse, everyone in the room was male. And when I realized that, I looked over and tears came out of my eyes. And you said, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't speak. I just shook my head no. And you waited till my voice could work. And I said, "Is there really going to be only men in the room?" I'm a survivor of abuse. And at that moment, the realization that I would be in a room with only men, I never in my life knew that that was something that triggered what I would eventually learn as post-traumatic stress. And she saw the tears and she said, "I've got your back." And I remember waking up, and there she was. There you were. Your life was full. You had kids, you had something going on. And for a moment, I was the most important thing in your world. The people you help will whine, will moan, will scream, because they are not at their best when they're not well. And you will rise above that, and you will not get paid what you're worth. But because we don't only get paid money from our jobs, you will get more than money from your job, and you will make a difference. And I won't always remember to thank you. So for that, thank you. Now get out of here and go to your next session. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.